Picture this. You're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. Cars are packed bumper to bumper, barely moving. But then, instead of waiting, you press a button, and your car lifts off the ground, soaring over the city. No more traffic lights, no more delays, just a clear path through the sky. This might sound like something out of a futuristic movie, but it's happening right now. Engineers and tech companies across the world are racing to turn this dream into reality. Electric flying cars are no longer a wild idea. They're being built, tested, and could be a part of our daily lives sooner than you think. But who is leading the charge? Where are these flying cars being tested? And more importantly, when will we actually see them in the skies? Today, we're diving into the future of electric flying cars to answer these questions and more. But before we explore the most advanced flying cars being built today, let's take a look at how these futuristic vehicles actually work. Flying cars may sound futuristic, but the technology behind them is surprisingly simple. Unlike airplanes that need long runways or helicopters that rely on noisy, fuel-hungry rotors, these vehicles use electric vertical takeoff and landing technology, also known as eVTOL. This means they don't need a runway at all. They can lift off straight into the air from a driveway, a parking lot, or even the top of a building. Instead of traditional fuel, most of these flying cars run on high-capacity electric batteries. This makes them much quieter than helicopters and far better for the environment. No harmful emissions, no loud engine noise, just a smooth, efficient way to travel. But what makes these vehicles even more exciting is their autonomous flight systems. Many flying car prototypes are designed to operate with little to no human control. Some use AI-powered navigation to detect obstacles, calculate flight paths, and ensure safe landings, all without a pilot. In the near future, hailing a flying car could be as easy as ordering a ride on your phone. Building a flying car isn't just about designing something that can take off. It's about creating a whole new way to travel. Right now, some of the biggest companies in the world are racing to bring electric flying cars to the public. From the streets of Silicon Valley to the skyscrapers of China and the airfields of the UK, the future is taking shape faster than ever. Let's take a look at some of the most exciting electric flying cars in development today. Alef Model A, the first street-legal flying car. Imagine driving to work, hitting a traffic jam, and instead of waiting, you take off and fly over it. That's exactly what Alef Model A is designed to do. This fully electric flying car is set to be the world's first street-legal vehicle that can also fly. On the road, it drives like a normal car. In the air, it can travel up to 110 miles. Developed in the United States, this futuristic car has a range of 200 miles on the road and 110 miles in the air. It's expected to launch between 2025 and 2026, and with a price tag of around $300,000, it's set to be one of the first personal flying cars available to the public. XPeng X2, China's futuristic air taxi. China has been investing heavily in flying car technology, and the XPeng X2 is one of its most ambitious projects. Unlike the Alef Model A, this isn't meant for personal use. It's designed to be a fully autonomous air taxi. With a top speed of 130 kilometers per hour, it's built for urban air mobility, meaning it could replace cars in congested cities. Imagine ordering a flying taxi with your phone, hopping in, and reaching your destination in minutes, without touching a steering wheel. XPeng is already conducting test flights, and China could be one of the first countries to roll out flying taxis on a large scale. Vertical Aerospace VX4, the UK's air taxi revolution. Over in the United Kingdom, another flying taxi is in the works, the VX4 by Vertical Aerospace. This sleek, all-electric vehicle is designed to replace short-haul flights and reduce traffic congestion in major cities. It can travel over 100 miles on a single charge and is being developed with the goal of cutting down travel times between cities and airports. Instead of sitting in traffic for hours, passengers could simply fly over it all, getting to their destinations in a fraction of the time. With big airlines like American Airlines and Virgin Atlantic already investing in it, the VX4 could become a common sight in the skies sooner than we think. But where are these flying cars actually being tested? And which countries are leading the way in making them a reality? Let's find out. Flying cars are no longer just an idea. They're being tested right now in different parts of the world. But not every country is moving at the same speed. While some are still figuring out the rules, others are already preparing for a future where these vehicles become part of everyday life. Let's take a look at the countries leading the charge. USA pushing the boundaries of regulation. The United States is home to some of the biggest names in flying car development, including Alef Aeronautics, Joby Aviation, and Archer Aviation. These companies are working closely with the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, to make sure flying cars are safe and legal for public use. In cities like Los Angeles and New York, companies are already designing air taxi hubs where people could book a flying car the same way they book a rideshare today. While regulations still need to be finalized, the U.S. is expected to be one of the first countries where flying cars will be available to the public. China leading in real-world testing. China isn't just developing flying cars, it's already testing them in real-world conditions. The XPeng X2 has successfully completed test flights over Dubai, Guangzhou, and other major cities. Unlike other countries that are still working on regulations, China is moving fast to integrate flying cars into urban transportation. The Chinese government has already approved airspace for these vehicles, meaning they could roll out air taxis before most other countries. With heavy investment from both the private sector and the government, China is expected to have flying taxis in operation within the next few years. The United Kingdom is betting big on electric flying taxis, with Vertical Aerospace's VX4 leading the way. The UK government is already working on regulations for commercial flights, and major airlines are backing the project. If all goes as planned, air taxis could become a common sight in London, Manchester, and other major UK cities by the end of the decade. With support from investors and airline companies, the UK is positioning itself as one of the first countries to offer flying taxis as a real alternative to regular transportation. Japan successfully completed manned test flights. Japan has always been at the forefront of high-tech transportation, and flying cars are no exception. The country has already completed manned test flights, proving that these vehicles can be safe and reliable. With government support and investment from tech giants, Japan is planning to introduce flying taxis at major events, including the 2025 Osaka Expo. If successful, Japan could become one of the first countries to integrate flying cars into daily transportation. Brazil might not be the first country that comes to mind when you think about flying cars, but it's quickly becoming one of the top countries in this field. With heavy traffic in cities like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, Brazil sees flying cars as a way to reduce congestion and make urban travel faster. The country has already ranked among the top 10 in flying car readiness, meaning it's actively working on infrastructure, air traffic management, and regulations to bring these futuristic vehicles to life. With so much progress happening around the world, it's only a matter of time before flying cars become part of everyday life. But how soon can we actually expect to see them on the streets and in the skies? Let's find out. Flying cars aren't just a dream anymore. They're getting closer to reality. But the big question is, when will we actually see them in our daily lives? Most companies expect that commercial flying cars will be available between 2025 and 2030. Some air taxi services could even launch before then. But there are still a few major obstacles that need to be solved before flying cars can take off for good. Air traffic control, managing the sky. Right now, our roads are already crowded with cars, and soon, the skies could be just as busy. The biggest challenge is figuring out how to control flying car traffic. Governments will need to create air lanes and systems to make sure thousands of flying cars don't crash into each other. Safety regulations. Who gets to fly? Another big question. Who will be allowed to fly a flying car? Some companies are designing them to be fully autonomous, meaning you won't need a pilot's license. But others still require a trained operator. Until regulations are set, it's unclear whether everyday people will be able to fly their own cars or if they'll only be used as air taxis. Infrastructure. Where will they take off and land? Unlike regular cars, flying cars can't just park anywhere. They need special takeoff and landing zones, similar to helipads. Some cities are already planning vertiports, special hubs where flying taxis can pick up and drop off passengers. But until these are built, flying cars will be limited to certain areas. Even with these challenges, flying cars are still on the way. But there's another big question. How much will they cost? Let's find out. Flying cars are coming, but they won't be cheap, at least not at first. Just like electric cars, early models will be luxury items, only affordable for the rich. The Alef Model A, one of the first road-legal flying cars, is expected to cost around $300,000. Meanwhile, high-end air taxis designed for commercial use could cost millions of dollars. But don't lose hope. Prices will likely drop over time as technology advances and production scales up, just like we saw with electric cars. Alef Model A, $300,000. First street-legal flying car, designed for personal use. XPeng X2, estimated at $150,000 to $200,000, built for urban air mobility, fully electric with vertical takeoff and landing. Vertical Aerospace VX4, price not disclosed, targeted for commercial air taxi services, expected to compete with short-haul flights. Flying cars are no longer just science fiction. They're being built, tested, and prepared for real-world use. But the big question remains, are we ready? While technology is advancing fast, challenges like air traffic control, regulations, and infrastructure still need to be solved before these vehicles become part of everyday life. Experts predict we'll see the first commercial flying cars between 2025 and 2030. But for most people, it could take a little longer before they become affordable and accessible. Would you ride in a flying car if you had the chance? Or do you think the world isn't ready yet? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more updates on futuristic tech, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video.